Hello, Paula.
Well, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good for this lovely morning. Yes, I've already been out in the park.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, have you been out for your walk this
Yes, but we didn't do beach walk. We did round the park, and I had to go with a pocket full of chicken because when he goes to the park, Harry feels like he's shortchanged. So I have to take the chicken because he thinks I haven't had my full walk.
Well, we will talk about walking and why you do it and why it's so important, Paula. But I'm doing things a little bit differently for the next few episodes because I reached out to you.
Yeah.
And there's a few more lasses as well who I've reached out to, because although there's actually a good few of you now in the lounge who don't necessarily have a business as such, like an immediate business, but you're there supporting and helping, and you're absolute advocates of what the lounge is all about. So this is what I'm trying to do the next few episodes. So what I want to do is just go right back to the beginning. Paula, how do we know each other? Who are you? Go for it.
Okay, so we met in Doxford Park in Barclays. So we both have been in a contact centre environment and finally crawled out for one reason or another. But we know each other through work, and then more recently I knew that you were very arty, so we've reconnected, and I've purchased lots of your lovely pictures, and obviously you've started doing some illustrations for me and a lovely picture. So we've reconnected. Really, it's it's been really sort of interesting how I've reconnected with people that maybe our paths wouldn't have normally crossed. So it's been quite interesting.
So tell us about your link to business, I should say. Businesses, local businesses, and why you're here to support us.
Well, it's a little bit my circumstance. The reason I had to leave Barclays was due to I was diagnosed with cancer in 2017, and it was a little bit of a shock. I felt as if I was on an absolute massive roller coaster. In fact, pre-COVID, I'm sure my coffee cup and all my meeting notes were still on my desk, because it was that quick from a diagnosis right through to me finally realising that work wasn't possible in its current format. So basically, I very quickly found that I had to have a lot of treatment, chemotherapy treatment, really, really quickly after diagnosis. So that more or less, even though you might initially feel okay, because your immune system gets a battering, a contact centre environment's really not the most ideal environment. So we had to make a choice, and I had to make a choice of, was I well enough for work? And right through probably the first 2 years, I was absolutely clambering to be back in the work environment because it's all I knew. I was very career orientated, had me 2 kids, went straight back to work. So getting up on a morning and sort of supporting people and business and performance was all about me. It was what I knew. So I missed I really, really missed the routine of the kids getting pushed out the car while it was still moving, whilst on a conference call, whilst probably missing out on lots of things. But I was just juggling and constantly busy, and that's how my brain liked to work. So this sudden sort of realisation, it took a while. It took a lot of expensive psychology and psychologist sessions to realise that I wasn't upset about having cancer. I was more upset about my identity being ripped away from me. So I'd lost my purpose. To be honest, I felt as if I wasn't contributing again, and my life was sort of going from one appointment to the next, being pumped full of toxins, having lots of surgery. So my new family were like lots of nurses, doctors. And my husband, rightly or wrongly, I mean, I love him to bits, but he was trying to help by giving me a new role as a homemaker. So he thought by me getting up, making his bed, finding out what he was having for tea, he thought he was helping. And really, that was just the worst thing he could possibly have done, because I've never, ever been a natural homemaker.
Yeah.
I've loved being outside. I've loved, my house is clean, but it's lived in. I've never been, I've never had a show home. I like to have nice things and, a house for entertaining and bringing people.
Your house.
It is like, it's very bright and sort of inviting, and it's very open. And I like to bring the outside in. Mm-hmm. So as you can imagine, when I thought that there was jobs I didn't want to do at home, there was one day when I started walking and I carried on walking, and I knew that the reason I kept on walking, and I must have walked about 10 or 12 miles.
Wow.
And poor Harry had his little legs walked off him, because I was walking away from jobs I didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. So after I had a lot of sessions, I knew that, that I had to look after my health. The type of cancer I had stage 4, I was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer. And to be honest, looking back, when I've had conversations with... I'm
not sure I understand.
When I've had conversations with people going forward, they've actually... they're just amazed that I'm still here. Mm-hmm. Where I started in my cancer journey was, for want of a better word, I was probably riddled. But
can I ask how many months or years were you given from your diagnosis?
Well, the oncologists, they're very good, and they more or less, they give you sort of the sort of the best case scenario and want you to succeed. Mm-hmm. However, you can't help but look at some of the statistics. Yeah. So I've now been, I've had stage 4 bowel cancer for coming up to 5 years in October. And based on the statistics at the beginning, only 7% of people survive 5 years.
Oh my God, I'm just getting total goosebumps.
But it's gone up now, because obviously the treatment's getting better, and I think it's about 12%. Mm-hmm. But my starting point, even though I didn't feel naturally really poorly, I was very tired. My liver was starting to complain. And it was the radiologist that had done all my scans initially. And he sat us down one day when I was trying to get a port fitted for the treatment. He says, "You didn't realise how poorly you really were." So, and that was the journey that I started on, really. And it was sort of that realisation made us think, oh, hang on a minute, I better get my head really together. So had lots of counselling, spoke to a psychologist. I do, there's CBT counselling, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners will know that if you've had any counselling or any coaching about your mental well-being, then cognitive behavioural therapy is a therapy that you can rebuild habits. But the system and the book I read about dealing with chronic illness is about, I read a book, it was called The Happiness Trap, and that gives you extra support around acceptance commitment therapy. So it was basically, everybody goes through life with different situations that you have to face, and being happy all the time is, even though people say, oh, I'm happy, that's my aim, in reality, it's, you know, if you were happy all the time, I think there's definitely something wrong. So what I found was I was putting me red lipstick on, I was putting a face on and a front. But what he taught me was my psychologist, Peter, who I've recently reconnected with, actually, and I'll talk to you about that later. But he went through some sort of help and support to say, right, okay, so you're going to accept. And I talked through some of the scenarios with my husband as well, and my kids.
Yeah.
So that helped me deal with accepting what I had, accepting what routine I needed to recreate, and just commit to it and say, right, I've got cancer, what's the best thing I can do? And I honestly realise now that keeping my head right and being as positive as you can, but realising there's going to be absolute really shit days as well. It's actually, you know, it's quite therapeutic, and it's really good to admit when you're having a really, really bad day, because then you can reposition everything in life and then start again and reach out for help when you need it. So because I've coached and counselled all my life, I have to have that little word with myself. So I look like a complete and utter idiot because I'm like having this conversation. But I'm lucky because I know when I need to reach out for help. So the question was that you had, how did I get into business? Yeah. The postman's just going to put some letters through the post, so it might make a noise. So
cool. I can also hear Siri's trying to have a conversation with us as well, isn't he? On you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the dog's out. Harry's out because he's hanging on the door wanting to be in. So the question he asked was, how did I get back into business? So I knew that I had lots of skills to give people, and I knew I had lots of things to share. So right through, so prior to being involved with the Northern Lass Lounge, I got involved with lots of sessions to help the medical profession. I did some lean stream sessions with some drugs companies about cancer drugs. I did online awareness talks for about Cancer UK. I was involved in some of the support groups online. So I realised that I had to put at least one thing in my calendar that was completely separate from cancer. And even though there's some salient links, it was separate. So then getting back to, you know, how I got involved a little bit more with the lounge was, I knew that even though, I mean, I'm now sort of looking at the business side of things, but I knew that it would help me by getting what I loved from different people. And sometimes I'm a bit like you, where I get my kicks from seeing other people succeed. I love it when, you know, when someone said, oh, as a result of that conversation, I've done this, this and this. And that's really, really powerful. And that makes me happy. Yeah. So I've got thousands of people in the Northern Lass Lounge that I can just sort of now and again chip in and just say, have you considered? And I've helped a guy as well that set up a chocolate company as well. And I've just been sort of, again, not in any formal way, but just sort of helping him develop and asking him questions to consider. And what I love about it is, it's when we have conversations and he has ideas, about 3 or 4 weeks later, he goes, ta-da! And I'll go, oh, that idea that you were talking about a month, and it comes into fruition. So I've realised he takes a while for things to sink in, but then, you know, the conversation we've had led into something around, you know, sort of his productivity in his business. So again,
I love that, because you're kind of using the lounge for your own motivation and your own development, but you're having conversations with someone who's not necessarily in the lounge. And this is where it comes down to the niche of the group, isn't it? Because it's a female community, and that's the way that we've set it up for obvious reasons. And I love how that's filtering out into people who are not necessarily female. Do you know what I mean? So it's great that you're able to do that.
I was involved with involved with Kevin before I knew about the lounge, so it was the other way around. But now, and some of the training, I love it, because I'm sure that I'll have probably delivered a similar, because all of like business training, it's not rocket science. It's something that, I mean, we knew that Barclays training, if you waited long enough, you used to get a different label on the same type of training, and it used to be like a 7-year cycle, and everything had come back. So some of the things that you were doing and the legend team that you've got around you is stuff that I'm really, really familiar with. So I'm like going, oh, I know how to do that, you know. So it's exciting us.
Yeah.
So what you were doing and what I'm doing to help you is really helping me. And then it meant that when you drew that beautiful picture of the story of, was it Beano, from a family, you know, a family bedtime story, it really sort of resonated with me that there's something I could do with that. So even just by having all of the links within the lounge, I thought, you know something, I don't need to do this alone. Because the other thing that used to really upset us as a businesswoman, and the type of person I was and the type of leader I was in my previous roles, my niche was getting people with different skills around me, because I knew what I liked to do, and I used to have someone to. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Gallup Strength Finder, and it's basically it's sort of a, you know, series of questions. You get you get some key strengths from the back of it and the information. And what I did quite nicely was I used to sort of think, right, who can I coerce into my team? And it was mainly people who had skills different to me or strengths different to me. So it meant that I had a finisher, and I had someone who could get into my head, which is quite complex, and make sense of what was in my head and the ideas. And I used to go, oh, great, you know, things used to happen. And then we would have like a finished article. And what I found was, when I was on my own, and when obviously I've been poorly all this time, and I've had all these ideas, I've got books of all these ideas. And then because I haven't had a team around us, I'm thinking, oh, well, it's going nowhere. I'm not making anything of this. So, and it's taken us about a year to realise why. It's because I used to recruit the people that used to do the things I didn't like to do. So now I've got I feel as if I've got a new team.
Yeah. Well, that's a natural trait for an entrepreneur, isn't it? You bring the right people around you. Yeah. It's certainly what I've done with the lounge, and the lounge wouldn't be where it's at now without these people around us. And that's another great way of thinking about the actual community, isn't it? You've got people at your fingertips to come and think or help you with stuff.
It's a bit, I mean, honestly, because people think I'm very much, you know, I give all this thing, but there's a bit of selfish part. And I absolutely say, oh, hang on, I'm going to nurture this relationship because I know you can do something I absolutely hate.
Because I've never experienced anyone who, and maybe I need to change this now, but it's true, who I don't know, help and support people, and you've got zero expectation. You have, and it's as if you found, we've talked about this a little bit before, Paula, right? When we worked at the bank, I certainly wasn't as self-aware as what I am now, and you're in this rat race, aren't you? And you're constantly rushing about, and you don't have time to really think about yourself. So I think it's amazing how when you leave that, you think that is the world, don't you? You think that is the world, and that's where you were meant to be, until you step out of that and you decide to become self-employed. You find your purpose, don't you?
You do. And I mean, I've found a new lease of life in probably a very difficult situation. So what I've done is, and it's really difficult because I'm being realistic here, but I know my life is limited. And you know, we've talked about this before. It doesn't upset me anymore because I'm a realist.
Yeah.
But that's why I think it's a bit of panic comes in, because I think, oh, I've got to do this now, or I've got to have, and you know me now that what I do is I now plan things. So if anything happened to me and I suddenly took a turn for the worst, I've got everything signposted and available. So, for example, the book, I will have it written for the end of July. And what I've also done is started to create lots of pictures and guides, so someone would be able to see the journey that's in my head.
Yeah.
Because that to me gives me comfort, and it means that if the family or someone did want to take it further, they've got they've got sort of a platform in order to do that. So that's really, really important for us as well. And I'm finding that I'm doing that with other aspects of my life. I mean, I'm involved. I'm going to give a lady a plug that was on Dragon's Den.
Go for it. I watched that episode the other day,
yeah.
by the way.
Well, it's all about being able to accept again that my life might be shorter than I would like. However, the good thing about it all is I know that. Whereas as somebody that can sort of step out their front door and get run over by a bus, and they've got none of this, planning. Whereas so there's a lady called Sheila Hogan, and you'll have to put her name in the notes. So she's developed an online app called Biscuit Tin, and it's a way of collecting memories and important information in a digital environment. And it was strange because I contacted quite a few of my ex-contacts, the likes people in the digital teams in Barclays, and about 3 years ago. And some of the aspects that she's actually got funding for now was what I'd thought about, but I sat on it, didn't I? Because I didn't have the team around us to make it happen. So I'm sitting going, this is a brilliant idea. And I was talking to myself and and then I had to park it because other things took over. I think I ended up in hospital for 6 weeks, but never mind. But what it was taking the burden away from people and my family. So basically it's collecting memories, but not only that, it's just like looking at the checklist. There's a lady called Emma Satchel who's a really good friend as well, and she's a chaplain. She works in a care home, and she's doing some training as a deaf consultant. I know it sounds really, but she's also part of the lounge, and she's going to be helping people to get everything in order so you can then relax and enjoy your life. Because you spend lots of time panicking about, oh, what if that happens? Who's going to, the bills are all in my name. Jeff's going to not know what to do with all that, the finance, there's a lot to think about. Yeah. So what I want to do is make sure that's all in hand. And then I've got some other ideas that I'm not going to share on the podcast. This is for when I do get the funding to take it further. But it's actually making death a discussion and not being frightened of it.
I watched that episode because I binged all of Dragon's Den. Obviously, now that I'm obsessed with Sarah.
Now you're best mates with Sarah. Sarah, rather.
And Deborah Meaden was saying that she wished she had that when our father passed away. She said it, like the things that you don't even think about, and it's happening with my granda now. Like he's just gone into a home, and the stuff that my mum's having to cope with and deal with.
Yeah. It's but what I would recommend, again, I would recommend any listener, don't be frightened to have the conversations, because it'll help you, but also the person who's maybe not well, or their memory's going, or because it's really, really powerful, but it's quite nice. And I know, and again, it sounds ridiculous, and the last thing you want is to make people sad. But I had a conversation with my son, and he is more, he's really he feels better knowing that I'm not frightened of what's going to happen to me. And that it does, you know, and for him to feel that, I feel that because I'm confident enough to talk about it, that makes me feel a better mum.
Oh, do you? Oh, I'm just thinking. Do you believe there is an afterlife, Paula?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh.
Yes. I am. Well, I've been to many spiritualists, and there's two really good ones I've been to, and they, as soon as I walk through the door, they say, "What are you doing? What are you paying me for? You can do this yourself." And to be fair, I think that there is a way of contacting people. So I'm not sure whether it'll be a physical presence anywhere, but I absolutely know that people who want to speak to me that have died can send me messages and can make me feel that they're there in different ways. It's music with me dad. My uncle, I'm spending quite a lot of time with my uncle's daughter, and I know when he's back. I've gone cold already, so there's probably one of them here.
Oh my word.
But I can walk in a hot room and feel cold, and I know that there's someone, and it's not cold in a nasty way, it's just like cold in a refreshing way. So I honestly believe that I think that if you've got unfinished business or there's someone that you need to communicate with, I think you'll have the ability to. So I've said to Jeff, I says, mind no funny business with any money grabbers, mind, or I'll come back and haunt you.
Well, I get that because I remember going to the spiritualists. We used to call them the spookies and see them. Yeah. And I remember going in, and I think I was 15 at the time. I think a lot of us creatives and entrepreneur type have this kind of gift. And she went, "You've got the gift, you know, you've got the gift." And she went, "But you won't let it in." So I'm apparently I've got it, but I don't let them come near it.
I'm very, very cagey about stuff that makes us feel uncomfortable. So there's something that blocks, because there's sometimes phones ring and I know who's ringing and why, and that sometimes makes us feel a bit uncomfortable. So I think you do. I think there's certain things that you'll allow to happen and things that you won't. So yes, I am. I'm a bit spooky as well. But
witchy.
I do, and I do. And my daughter thinks, she'll say, "Oh," she says, you and Granny. I'm sure that you've got your cauldron out the back. You know what's going to be going on with me." So yeah, I says, if you're good, we might share our knowledge and skills with you one day.
We talk about cauldrons and witches and
yes,
right.
Wasn't that a big good link?
Good link. So Paula, let us just explain the picture here, right?
Yeah.
Me and Paula were sat in Flamingo's cafe down the front in Seaham. If you haven't been, you need to go. It's awesome. Lovely view. We were sitting out. 2 ex-Dynamite corporate bank managers here wearing bright funky leggings talking about a wizard that lives in a cherry tree. Explain, Paula, who Wizard Beano is.
Well, I have my lovely father-in-law Joseph to thank for this. So I met my husband Jeff about 20 plus years ago, and Wizard Beano was always talked about, and Wizard Beano was a wizard that lived in the cherry tree in Hastings-Hill in Sunderland, and he was the figure of all the bedtime stories that Joe told his 3 kids, Jeff, Jill and Alison, and then after that he's also told all his grandchildren similar stories. And Wizard Beano basically can't be seen by adults. He travels. He used to travel on Alison or Jill's shoulder and go and sort out lots of problems. And he used to go to places like the beach, and he used to drop off Jeff's mum at CNA before she, to go to work, and then they used to have an adventure. So lots and lots of really fun memories. Even here is Alex, one of the grandchildren, wrote a little story, which I've incorporated in my writing, about Wizard Beano for Joe's 80th birthday. So the reason why I'm on this journey is in December the 22nd, Joe Senior had his first great grandchild, Joseph Junior. So prior to that, we knew that they were expecting a baby. We knew Steph and James were going to have this child, but didn't know whether it was going to be a boy or a girl. And there was going to be a baby shower. So that was when I said, wouldn't it be lovely to get or to have something really special and different for the new baby? And that's when I got in touch with you, Kylie, to say, right, I've got loads of things in my head. Can we have a meeting? And then I did silly things like, right, Joe, what does Wizard Beano look like? So he went, oh, I don't know. He's got, he says, it's been a while. So he drew me a picture of Wizard Beano on a back of a paper bag, like a proper sweet bag, and in pencil, so it had no colour. So then as we formulated the picture, I can remember you ringing us and saying, right, we need to look at colour scheme, what does Wizard Beano look like? What colour jacket does he have? So I remember being in the house, and I rang Joe, and he answered the phone. He went, Paula, I'm in Aldi. I went, right. I says, well, can I ask you one little question? Yes, okay. I said, what colour is Wizard Beano's coat? And he must have looked round, and he says, I'm just past the gravy granules. That's the exact colour. So I knew it's still red. So if anybody has been looking at some of the pictures that I've posted, there is a packet of Bistones. Loads of people been saying, how does Bisto translate? That was it. So that's what we started with, the colour palette. So, and then what I did was there's a special note in the back of that picture when I got it framed. So great granddad has written the new baby a note, and I just thought it was quite powerful. So I made all the family cry when it came out in the baby shower. But then I got prints of the painting for all the other grandchildren, and I thought, that's something nice. And again, it made me feel better, because I thought, again, they've got something that I created on behalf of them. And then what we did was I looked at the picture and I thought, hang on a minute, we can't retire Wizard Beano. He's got more mates. So in my head, I started create. I went bizarre and started creating. And then I was creating them, and my mum was crocheting them. So I was like, I was talking about the characters. So I've got the little shoes here. You've seen the little shoes.
So there's some tiny, anyone who's listening, you're talking tiny weeny about an inch long.
Tiny weeny crocheted white ballet shoes. and then my mum started to get in my head, which is good. So Granny Lynn is great. She knows what's in my head. So I was creating, I went, I've got two little rabbits, and I said, and these are the ears and this is the tail. So again, I've got a crocheted selection of characters, because I really like visuals. Mm-hmm. So I respond and work. And then we've got Julie Reynolds from Also Pretty, and I'm showing now, for those who are listening, little spell book.
Oh, so have you seen
got one for one of the characters, and I've got another one. Look at that, it's a red one for Wizard Beano, and a wand, and you've got in cup. Look, and a wand.
Yay! Little plug for Julie there. Little plug for Julie.
And I've got now this is my son. Bought me that for Mother's Day.
Writing picture books, awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. And then I've got
How to create a picture storybook from the lovely Alexa Whitten. Oh, look at that, she's amazing. So it's going roundabout rabbits. Hey,
and come on, I've read all these as well. Yes, I've got them all.
Do you think, Paula, and I love this about social media, although we all have a love-hate relationship with social media. We wouldn't be here, I don't think, if like social media didn't exist. So do you think the fact that you're now a author to be, you're writing a story, is a lot to do with what you see us kind of doing with our stories, our books, and it's kind of
Yes,
inspired you to do?
it's helping me. But you know what's helped most of all? I respond. You can tell that I'm career focused, because
Yeah.
I was messing on and now I've got deadlines, and I respond much better when somebody said I need that by then.
Yeah.
So I'm now sort of going right, and I'm on fire now. But that's the old smart, the smart objectives, which I know Amy's talking about now, and making goals really, really specific, and putting things in writing and committing to stuff. So all of these things that I've got, that's just in me, it's part of me being now, as well as seeing all of the other writers succeed and be, launching something themselves. It's all linked in. Yeah. So I'm using some of the stuff that's in us together with, I was at Holly's book launch on Sunday, and how lovely was that, and again, and Katie Toner was there with all of her stuff for our sleepovers and our, and our parties, and it's just so I'm much better face to face. But I feel that social media is the next best thing. I can't believe, right? And I go and I'm like Wincy Willis, for those who are old enough to remember the weather. I walk down the beach, and it's normally a similar stretch of beach, probably 3 times a week, and I post bit of beach, and it's a really bad live, because I've normally got a strange face at the end of it like that. My daughter's informed us that she says you look as if you're grunting at the end of each live, so I'm consistent. But I just love the fact that my uncle that sits in Gisborough, he watches me on lives, as well as about between 100 and 250 people a day, which I find incredible. Watch me having a bit of chat with the dog, looking at the sea in all different weathers. But it works twofold. It means I don't need to let people know how I am, because they can physically see us. And 2, it reassures some of my family members, when was Paula last on our live? And if it's just a couple of days ago, they don't worry as much. Yeah. So it works in a lot of ways, and people like to see people. So without social media, people wouldn't have that sense of knowing if I was all right. So I'd get probably loads of texts.
Did you have that thought process about social media prior to your diagnosis and working at Barclays, or?
No, I hated it.
You hated it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I used to have a bit of Facebook, because I had a lot of friends and family that moved abroad, and I used to find it really nice to send them a message, happy birthday, happy new year, for people who lived all over the country and and I still keep in touch with people that I went on honeymoon with that live all over the country. So I found that as a link to people, I found that quite nice. What I hated about social media was, and it's things that still worry me now, it's the impact on children. Yeah. So I found it, I had Beth that was, when you're 11, 12, 13, 14, you find it quite hard to communicate. And there's times when, things have been written on Snapchat or Instagram, and it's been communicated in a way that's been misrepresented. So then it's caused a rift between, girls. So I've always encouraged Sam hates these, he's not on social media, he's on it just to communicate, but he doesn't like that. He likes being aloof. He says if somebody wants me, they can pick up the phone, or they know where. Yeah. So, but me daughter Beth, she's living the life, and she's communicating through social media to tell us about our trip in America. So I now realise that it's got some it's got lots of positives as long as you're sensible with it. And I think the terms and conditions and the way that you operate the Northern Lass Lounge, that's the way that social media should be. Ooh. If you've got something bad to say about someone, pick up the phone and give them the feedback with context. It should be used as a way of making people feel welcomed, understood, confident. It shouldn't be used, because I think messages, I mean, I would never ever in my previous life coach someone with something they needed to change by email.
No.
I would always sit and say, you know, this is what I've observed. This is why, you know, I believe you need to change because this is the impact you've had. And without eyeballing somebody like that and explaining what you've observed and having true facts, I just think it can be really, really, and that's what's happened in the world of social media. People, they've only got half of the story.
It is, and I think when something, and it's very, very rare, Paula, and in the lounge, is like if something negative starts to happen, or there's a debate that's getting out of control. It happened recently. I'm not going to go into the details, but my team was so like, whoa, we need to have a look at this. What's happening here? Why is it happening? And I've had to learn so much about responding in the right way.
Yes.
Like back in the day when I was working alone without the right people around us, I probably would have reacted, and I've done that before, and it's backfired.
Really hard, really hard not to.
Yeah, you've got to really just go, right, hold on a minute, and if you need to, ask somebody and go, how should I respond to you? So I quickly turned the comments off and went, right, it's gone a bit too far now. We were all about debate. We do not like stop people from having different opinions. You know what I mean?
Healthy, and people's opinion and expressing an opinion is good as long as the line is not crossed, and sometimes you do have to step in. I mean, believe it or not, you get I'm on a lot of forums around cancer. And you've got no idea what come, you know, and then you go, my God, and it's because when people are passionate about something, then you tend to only have your view because it's just so, and I get that, and because I'm old and because I've seen lots of people with that passion and enthusiasm, it's sometimes seen as bragging. It's sometimes seen as my way or no way, you know, and
I've had it all.
Yeah, you've got to articulate. I mean, I'll bring in, you know, Bowel Babe. She'll be delighted if I mention it. She got so upset that she's doing so much good in the world. She's got 875,000 followers, but she said what hurts her still, or what did hurt her still, was the odd troll that was saying, you know, horrible things about her. And it's that impact. So we are, and I don't know how, I wish if I had a magic wand, right, I'd make people realise that feedback or somebody saying something that you're not quite happy about is not something that should overshadow all the good you do. Yeah. So I wish I could get people to think that, because as soon as one negative comment comes in, it seems to override all the good. Yes. And because I'm thick-skinned enough, and because I'm in a new situation, nobody bothers me anymore.
Me too.
I just go, oh, can I have a coffee and discuss it? I'll go, no, don't like you. No, I don't.
I'll tell you what, Paula, and I'm sure you've been there back in the day, like I think it's because I've been in the situation, specifically on social media, where it's torn us up inside when somebody said something about us, and I've been like, because I've had trolls left, right and centre thinking that I'm this, that and the other, do you know what I mean? But they don't know us, and it's torn us up inside, it has. And I've thought, but now I think I'm just, whatever.
Well, what you're doing is you're choosing, right? You're choosing to divert your time onto something that's much nicer to do, and that's the way you've got to be. And it takes a lot of maturity. It takes practice. It takes sort of you sometimes have to do lists, you know, and why is this bothering me? And I mean, you still get hurt, we're human, and but I've learned now where I just like, I haven't got enough time. I mean, my time is very, very precious.
Another thing, you haven't got time for that.
No. So I just like say, am I gonna get something for myself or feel better as a result of spending this time with that individual? And if I get the answer yes, I continue with it. If I get the answer no, I'll say sorry, I'm not available.
Yeah. So I looked at Paula. Guess how long you've been? Have a guess how long you've been in the lounge. I can't believe it, me.
Well, yeah. Am I coming up to a year?
4 months.
Only 4 months. God, I feel as if I've been there like since the beginning.
4 months ago? No, but we were probably.
Do you feel as if I've been around forever?
Because we were communicating again, like
yes,
through my art and stuff like that, and I don't know. I thought you were there from bloody day one.
Well, that surprised me, mind. I'm saying a year. See how my time just goes over that much quicker.
Why do you think the lounge works so well?
On top of what I've already said, I think that it is a very safe and inclusive environment. Ooh. And I honestly believe that no matter how experienced you are in business, and it doesn't matter how much you already know, I think that you will learn something either about yourself or about how to enhance your business through the experience in the lounge.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I cannot shout about bringing yourself into a community of people who are doing the same thing as you. So, but like I was one of these people, Paula. I mean, I've changed massively since I was at work, and you've probably seen it as well.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't a people person.
No, you've grown so much, but you've realised where you get your buzz from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know that now. So it's seeing the looks on those kids' faces, it's seeing the looks on the women that you're supporting and the lasses, and you now get the same buzz that I get by getting someone to realise how brilliant they are.
Yeah. Oh, all the fails. So we're going to get on to now, Paula, the part of the show which is called Why I Lass. Every single time I record this, I'm still shouting for someone to make us a jingle. So I've asked the team, they know who I'm interviewing today, so all of my team have asked you a question. Is anyone who you wouldn't fancy a question from? Or
I love them. I love them all in many different ways. So
you're an open book as well, and nothing phases you. So
nah, not at all. When you've got to get your hair shaved off like that, and you just put your lipstick on, and you realise what nothing phases us. I assure you.
Okay, Paula, this is from our Mirren, the branding queen. Oh, what 3 items would you take if you were on a desert island?
My Swiss Army knife.
Right. You're thinking of that Castaway film, aren't you? What he did.
I am. Yeah. We used to answer these questions as like in a the beginning of a meeting. Can I take people or not?
Of course, you can take anyone you want.
I'll take Harry.
Oh yeah.
Because he'll just make us close to everyone, and I would never want to choose between Jeff, Sam, and Beth. Wouldn't choose between them, so I better take the dog. And the last thing, I think that maybe Spotify. So I don't want the whole thing. I just want to. I'm right into audiobooks and podcasts now. So I would, and listening to, I like to listen to stuff, so and it motivates us, so I would do that. Spotify app with obviously the tools to be able to listen to things.
Other than the Lounge podcast, what are you listening to?
I'm listening to the refinery stuff, pen to paper, the Alexis, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm going back. I like George Alagara's voice. You know, he's done some work with UK Bowel Cancer UK, so I'm listening to that again. It's just for his voice. It's very like calming, and I get a little bit of information now and again. I'm also listening to a book, and I can't remember the title, but I've just downloaded a few. So I did the Sarah Davies book by audio.
Does she read that out then herself?
Sorry,
is it her reading?
Yeah. Oh, it was great. I felt as I was more part, because what I do is I get disappointed when I read books, you see, and I can't hear somebody reading it, because my characters look different to other people's interpretation of them. So I'm better when I'm listening to somebody else's voice. So it's just a strange thing, but yeah. So I've got loads on. I've just downloaded a few. The woman, I can't remember her name, but she did Dirty Dancing with Patrick Swayze. Jennifer.
Oh yeah, but I don't know her surname.
Anyway, Baby. She's got an autobiography. I just thought, oh, that'll be interesting. I just wanted to, so I'm listening to her autobiography as well.
That's what I love about podcasts and stuff, though. You listen to stuff and you find stuff that you wouldn't not
oh yeah,
would you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the stuff that I have listened to, which I go, and now I go, no, it's not going to float my boat anymore. So, but yes, and I love these podcasts. So, I've listened to them all, and that's why. I mean, I'm going to be working with Sarah Jane off last week. I've got in touch with her about
Sarah Louise.
Sarah Louise, yeah. Sorry, Sarah Louise, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
So we're gonna do some. Sorry.
Can you tell us what's happening there, or what? Or?
Well, I was interested in her. She's got some courses, so some mobile phone courses, so how to get the best out of photography on your phone. Also, she knows that I can, I've branded myself more or less, but there's a few things so I've asked her if she'll do a one-on-one consult.
Brilliant.
But we're going to walk the dog so she can see how I tick. So I just thought, I'll pay, instead of looking again, this is what I've learned over the last couple of weeks. If I can afford to use other people's services, and it'll take a lot less time. So I've got my daughter looking at my Instagram because she's really quick, and it takes me, I've gone through the training and I've done a lot, but she probably adds a little bit more of the zing.
So I look forward to seeing what you produce with Sarah as well. And
yeah.
So I think you've answered what I was going to ask next, was about, what is next for you, what you're doing over the summer. I think, you're getting right into your book. You're getting Beano sent over to us, and I look forward to starting to illustrate it in October. It's going to be.
I'll be out in Ruby, my camper van. I'll be having a few breaks because I like sort of camping and going out and about, and I love outdoors, so I sleep much better in my van than I do in my bed. Yeah, believe it or not, yeah. I've still got lots of treatment to have. I'm still on active treatment, so that's a bit of a challenge, but I've just got to look after myself and say, how can I get the best out of this?
Bless you. You're just such an inspirational woman, Paula. You've got the kindest of hearts, and I'm so glad you came into our community, and everyone just thinks you're a total legend. So what you say? Whereabouts can our listeners, or where do you want them to go to at this point in time to find you? Where do you want to go?
Yeah. Well, I think on Facebook and Instagram, just look for Paula Fowler. Really straightforward. I am going to move after having a little bit of consult with you, and because I've got quite a lot of followers all together now, I'm just going to move my Wizard Beano and Pals information into my my normal pages, and then just change those around a bit. So at the moment I do have Wizard Beano Facebook and Wizard Beano Instagram pages, but they will be incorporated in my Paula Fowler, because I thought why sort of add something else for people to click into when really you can come on the beach walks with me and find out about Wizard Beano in the same area. Brilliant. And find out what I'm doing with Ruby and all of me other little bits and pieces. And I'm well into, fundraising for the cancer charities. I'm going to be in the press for cancer research, so I'll let people know about that. So yeah, I try and inform and make people aware that regardless of your situation, cancer's a real thing and it can happen to you, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a death sentence. And that's really, and I know it's a really strange place to end, but it's the honest truth. This has given me a new lease of life in a terrible situation, and I'm doing things I would have never done ever.
Bless you. Thank you so much, Paula. It's been
You're welcome.
Full hour we've talked there, haven't we? But we'll see you in the lounge.
You will. Bye.